Hi, welcome back to Mizpah Pottery Studio, and it is a rainy, muggy Sunday here in Georgia. So I thought it would be a great time just to get back into the studio because I haven't been in, I can't even tell you how long, and I'm so sorry, but you know, it's summer. And so I thought this would be a great day to show you how to do one of my favorite things of all time is to carve leaves into a bowl or whatever that you have as far as what you can use it for as a form, as a mold. So today this is really big, as you can see, but we're going to use this as my mold, and we're going to put down some newspapers and stuff, but you can use Pam if you want to, just a tiny little bit so it's not real slippery. You can use some cornstarch just so that the clay doesn't stick to whatever. Go down into your kitchen and just grab something that you can use, because you know it's just totally washable, or go to your thrift store and just look around for that 97-cent thing or the $1.50 thing that you can just use as a mold. It's fantastic, and my closet is just full of molds that you can use as just a stopping point for your clay. So sit back, enjoy, and let's get started. Alrighty, so let's get started. So if you've watched some of my videos in the past, you know we have to prepare our clay first, and that entails taking your rib tool, and they come in multiple sizes and flexibility. I particularly like this one. It's Mud Tools, and I don't know the number on it, but oh, it's a number 1, so love it. It's flexible. So this is my favorite. So what you're gonna do, you can roll this out, of course, with some rolling pins, like that, just any sizes and stuff like that. So I have some smaller ones too when you're using something smaller. And then just go to your local hardware store. If you don't have, I have a slab roller. I've just invested in one over time, but just go to your hardware store and get some you know, straight pieces of wood that you can use to put on either side. So it'd be similar to like this, and then you'd have another one, and then you would roll your clay on the board to make it the shape that you want to. So that's something that you can do if you don't have a slab roller. And so then, you know, you just take your rib tool and you just go through it really like a feather and get out all of your lines that you might have. I have canvas lines in mine because my slab roller, of course, has canvas on it. And so I just try to go through all that. And then, of course, make sure you don't have any bubbles that are appearing in your clay as well. And luckily, I don't. And I'm saying luckily because I used some extra clay along with my regular clay and kind of married them together. So I'm really happily surprised that there are no air bubbles in here. So once you have all that, you again palm it, don't squeeze it with your fingertips, and flip it over to do the back side. And then once we have this all done, we will move forward to putting it into your mold. I'm actually going to use paper towels today instead of newspaper. Just my preference of choice today. I started to grab the newspaper and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to use some paper towels today. I don't know why, but that's what I chose to do. And this is about 3 pounds of clay also. So you might want to invest in a small purchase of something that weighs your material so that you know how much to use in the future for the same type of size that you want to do. So this is almost 3 pounds of clay, and you can tell it's not perfect on all the sides. You know, this one's a little bit more square, this one's got a little bit more circular to it, but that's okay. You can kind of fix that when you put it into your mold in just a little bit. So what we're going to do today is we are going to use leaves. So these are imitation, you know, get them at AC Moore. And then I cut them off of the stems, and I really make sure that there's some good veins in the back, you know, because we're going to be using these veins to create the depths of our leaves when we are carving. And of course I have maple and oak leaves here as well. And so we're going to just use a multiple of sizes and you know, pick whatever size. This one's a little bit more flimsier, and it doesn't have you know, good veins on the back side. So when you have that, you might have to go ahead and just kind of mimic that, because there's just nothing here but material. So this is the only thing that's given it a vein. So when you're making your purchase, just kind of look and make sure that it's got some good veins, you know, because that's really essential for what we're going to be doing today. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I have some paper towels that I have put in here, and then what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to palm it and just kind of place it in there as evenly as I can by just kind of feeling around down below me as I'm kind of putting it in there. And it's going to take multiples of times to get it where you want it. So this is the edge of my leaf bowl down here. This is the other edge down here, and they're about the same distance apart here, so that's good. And then on the sides, they're about the same distance as well. So looks good so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rounded side of my rib tool, not the square side, and I'm going to just kind of hold this up a little bit, because this is a pretty deep bowl that you can remember from the beginning here. So you just kind of go around it and squishing it down just a little bit. Now you don't want to do too much with this, because then you're thinning it out. You're thinning out your clay. So you're just trying to push it down into the bowl a little bit to hit the bottom, because we want the bowl to be able to sit on a table. So we need to get down to the bottom. The other thing that you can do too is you can just kind of maneuver it like that and kind of pounce it in, which gets it down there a little bit faster. It just depends on the depth of your bowl. So when I can feel it down there, that's pretty good. And you can also kind of pound it like that. Just get it down there good. Okay, now once you kind of get it down there, just make sure it is on the bottom. So again, using your rib tool, and we're gonna form this in a minute as well to just a fun shape, you know. Maybe you don't want your bowl just to be a bowl. And see, I had some residue left over, so it's got some little dried pieces in there. And then, you know, just kind of work it to the sides of your bowl as well. And clay is very pliable right now anyway, so you can do pretty much anything with it. And when we are working with carving, we kind of want our clay to be leather hard, because we need it to be able to carve. So right now this is so soft, we're going to want to wait a little bit and let it firm up. But in the meantime, we're going to form it to what, you know, however we want our bowl to be and things like that. So you could also go ahead and cut around the sides to form the bowl exactly to what we just had. Or you could just leave it as a really big platter like this is. You know, it's great for parties and just to put your potato salad in, your fruit salads in, and things like that, because it's beautiful as a decoration, but it's also, you know, a utility as well. So you can just use it for that, and you can just keep it out on your tabletops year round if you'd like. So we are going to stop there for just a minute and let this get a little bit more leather hard, because I think what I'm going to do, I think I might just like leave it as this size right now. I haven't quite decided. I might cut the edges around it. I haven't decided yet. But you can also kind of go around here, because there's some sharp edges where the clay has kind of poked off a little bit. And you just want to kind of go through the sides. The other thing that I really like to do too is I like the edges to be rough. You know, it just kind of looks more natural, but you can kind of see there's a little bit of a hump here, so a little bit of a cut. So just, you know, smooth it out. You don't want to have anybody cut themselves on it or when you're doing your dishes, but I really like the natural roughness of the edges of the clay that you can kind of see like that. But it's totally up to you and your preference, you know, so just decide what you like. Okay, Okay, so I have decided that I am just going to leave it as it is. And I also used a little bit more paper towels to kind of stuff in there a little bit to give it some life, you know, to give it a little bit raised effects on some of the sides and things like that. So just wad some paper towels up and just kind of stick it under there and that type of stuff. Okay, so now we're going to lay down our leaves. Now you can use all the same, you know, kind of leaf, whether it's the oak or maple, or maybe you found something else at your store that you prefer. But what you're going to do is just kind of lay these around and just find, you know, find what you like. And yeah, that one's got some good veins in it. I wasn't quite sure, but it's got some good veins. And, you know, make them go every which way. It's kind of like they've just fallen from the sky, you know. And I like to have some of my leaves kind of hang off the side, because sometimes I like to wrap them around and have a little decoration on the other side of the pottery as well. So, see. And you have to remember, when you're putting these on, the more you put on, the more carving you've got to do. And also, when you are doing carving, you know, normally we have the clay about 1/4 of an inch. So you just have to remember, if you're doing carving, you need to allow for the carved part. So you need to have your clay a little bit more than 1/4 inch thick to allow to, you know, get down in there and take away, you know, the clay. So let's see, I don't know if I want that there. But I do like to have a nice big piece in the center of it. But, you know, that way I was having too many oaks on one side, so kind of like that. And there's another little oak over here that I might want to do here. So, let's see. This is a perfect time of year too, because we are now getting ready to get into August here, unbelievably so. And so this is a perfect time of year to make an autumn bowl as well. So you go ahead and do that, and then we will get back here to show you your next steps. Okay, do you all have your leaves how you like them on your piece? Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is what you just go ahead with your finger and you rub the veins into your clay. But, you know, don't poke down too hard, but just poke down enough that it's going to leave an impression. And don't take them off, just leave them there, right? So, and you can impress the stem if you want as well. So it's going to have a stem later on in life here. And just kind of press it all down. Now the material itself isn't going to stick, but that's fine. We're just right now trying to get these stems and the veins. And also, you're gonna, when you're kind of moving your thumb around and your fingers around, you're gonna get your material that's gonna kind of crumple up and fold over. That's great, because that allows for a little bit more texture in your leaf, you know. So this is all about texture and the dynamics of a leaf. So these are not going to be perfect, and that's what makes them so beautiful. So just go ahead and do all of those, and you know, have some that are going over the edge, you know, because this is, you're trying to mimic real life here, you know, the flow of a leaf and things like that. So just go ahead and just let them be natural. Like this has a little crease in it right there. It's going to be perfect. And go all the way down. And now your clay is probably still a little too moist. So, and it should be for this part of it. We don't want to have dried out clay yet. So we're not looking for leather hard at this point. We're still looking for your moist clay. And then I got a little stem in there, so I want to press that in. You hear some other thing going on. I have my candles going, so that's what all the noise is over here. you can't be in your studio without candles. I'm just saying, you know, it's important. It's the whole process. Have some music going, have your candles, maybe have a glass of wine. It's a little too early in the day for wine for me, but you know, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And now this one, he's got some weird veins. The veins don't really match up to the printed material on the front, so that's kind of funny. Okay, you go ahead and do that, and then after you get these all pressed in, leave them there, walk away, let your clay, don't let it get total leather hard, because then, I mean, it's going to take us a while to do all the carvings, so you don't want it total leather hard. You do want a little bit of a pliable to it as well, because we still have a lot of work to do, and if it's already way too leather hard, we're not going to be able to finish your piece. So just take note of that and just step away from it for a while. What you can do at this point too, before you step away, is you can take your needle tool. Let me find one here. I should be able to find one pretty quickly. Okay, so take your needle tool before you walk away and outline, just outline your leaf. Just like that. You can do it really quick or whatever, because we're going to be carving this anyway, so you're not going to see these lines, but it gives you the definition of where we're going to be carving it in a minute, because when we get this all done, of course, we're going to be taking the leaf off, and we're just going to have this outline of your leaf. So go ahead and do that right now while it is still a moist piece of clay. And then once you get that, once you get this outlined, and you know, you don't have to be exact. All leaves are not the same, of course, just like a snowflake. They're all different. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Okay, so when you get that all outlined, you're going to take it off, and it's going to look like that. It's a beautiful piece. We're going to do so much more with this when we're all done. It's going to be amazing. So go ahead and do that part, and we'll be back in touch soon. Okay, so your piece should now be just a little bit more leather hard. Right? It's kind of easier to pick up out of your dish. So now, hopefully you have some carving tools we've done in the past. And we're just going to use an assortment of these during the whole process. So I kind of like this one the best. If you find this this is just I think a generic one that you can pick up at AC Moore, in the little package that it gives you of, you know, all these different I think you get like 6 or something in their package. But I like this one because it has a little bit more of a curvature than the one that comes with the knife. And I like that because it's more of a scoop, you know, and you can just kind of get in there a little bit more with that. So that's kind of what I like to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you how to start this and how to begin it. And then you just kind of work your way around the whole thing. And so hopefully you all kind of traced around it. So what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of start. And again, what we're doing is we are carving away everything else but the leaves. So you just kind of go around it. And when you're scooping down in there, don't scoop too hard. Remember that your piece is only a little bit more than 1/4 inch deep. And so we're just going to go in here, kind of follow our lines around our leaf. And, you know, it's nice and pre-leather hard, you know, so it's still pliable enough for us to get in it. It's not real dry, but it's just perfect enough that we can just go in and scoop stuff out. Now, when you're scooping, it's not going to be even, right? Because we don't want this to look all formed in the same way. This is kind of like a natural bowl, and we want the process to be, you know, just, I don't know what the word is for it, but we just don't want it all to look the same, you know? And so when we're doing this, we're going to have these different types of, you know, patterns in our scooping, so to speak, or in our carving. So now as we're getting down into like a little something that's a little bit narrow, you might want to find another instrument, another tool to kind of take away stuff like that. And you know, you might have a repertoire of different tools that you've come across, or if you're just starting out in pottery, you know, there's these that are really great. It doesn't have the other end of it on there, but it's fallen off over the years. But you know, then you have like these that are really good to get into the corners like that and kind of scoop away like that. So we're just going to do this first process here first. So, and then we're going to come back and do something else as we do this. So just go ahead and continue to just
go around all of your lines and just take out a little bit, and then we're going to refine this later on as we kind of go on through it a little bit.
Now, as you go along, you're going to have bigger places, you know, so this is probably not going to be good enough for you to use anymore. So you might want to go to something bigger like this, or even something bigger like that. Or if you're into like needing a square with some edges, you can do something like that. But there's, again, an array of sizes and shapes that you might want to use, just depending on where you're at and here, how deep your platter or your mold is too, to be able to get into certain places. So there's just a whole variety of different things out there that you can use for carving. So feel free to experiment. It's so much fun. I hope you're having fun and just relaxing, listening to music, and maybe got a candle going, and just keep on going. Okay, so as I plug along here, you can see it's just kind of a mess right now, right? So there's parts where I have carved through and parts that I haven't yet, and just chunks of clay I try to get out as I go along. But you can see too that there's not a lot of depth yet, right? So I've just been carving away just the outline of the leaf. There's not a lot of depth yet. But as we finesse this and continue to go about it, we are going to increase the depth to make it a more three-dimensional look to it. And we'll clean it up, and we're going to give this form some action in the leaves. So the leaves will not just be laying here on this either. We're going to use some brushes and water, and we're going to make these leaves come to life. But this is kind of what it looks like right now. As you can kind of see, it's just a mess, but that's all right. We're going to continue, and then we're going to kind of clean it up and change it as it goes. So let's keep going. Okay, so now that we have all of the clay out from around our leaves, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to all of them again, and we're just going to define them a little bit more. So as you can see, like I said before, they're not very deep here yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit deeper, but again, you have to make sure that you don't go too far deep, that you're making this too thin, because once it gets into the kiln, then it's just going to crack, and you're not going to have this beautiful bowl to put on your table. So we're just going to go back through, and we're going to define our lines, and then we'll talk about the next steps with that as well. So let's get started here for just a little bit. And again, we're just trying to, it's up to you, you know, how you want to keep your carving lines going. If you want to make it more organic so that you can kind of see all the lines that you kind of created as you carved along or not. Yeah, it's totally up to how you prefer to do it. Sometimes you can really have a lot of lines, or you just might want a few to just kind of show, you know, that it is a sculpted piece. And those lines just kind of bring out the character once you add glaze. So when we're going to do the glazing of this, and this is why I like to use the brown speckled, because once we do the glazing of this, we're just glazing behind the leaves, right? So we're glazing here, and the leaves, we're going to put a little glaze on it, which is going to define the veins of the leaf, and then we're going to wipe it off. So you're going to be able to see the speckled brown of the leaf, but the glaze is just going to be reset into the veins. So it looks really cool when we're all done with it. I know it's kind of hard to imagine, but it really looks pretty cool when we're all done. I do like to use the white clay as well. And when you do that, you do the same thing as we're doing now, of course, but the glaze, when you're putting it on this part of it, and then the white, the veins, I like to kind of use as a brown, and that really defines that leaf. And that's beautiful too, as far as, you know, using the white clay, because it kind of goes a little bit more, you know, with the things in your house and the glazes that you're going to use. But I just like the speckled brown for pretty much everything, but I don't know. I'm silly like that. So you can just see right now, just from those moments in time that we've just been talking here, that you can really just see the definition more of this leaf away from the background part that I'm carving away. And we're just going to continue that, and then, you know, we'll clean it up as we go, but right now I just want you to go in and just do that a little bit more so you can kind of see the depth of that a little bit more. It's pretty cool. So it's coming along. And we're gonna try to work a little bit so that we're not getting the clay too leather hard. Okay, so if you need to, cover some of it up with some plastic, spritz it just a little bit if you need to, and then cover up with plastic. Otherwise, like mine's still pretty pliable, so I'm still good to go. Okay, work on that, and then we'll get back together and again in just a minute. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is, it's still a mess, as you can see. You can kind of blow it out if you want, whatever. But now we're going to go around and we're going to outline all of your leaves again. And I use this tool because it's got a really good point on it, and it really kind of gets down in there. So you don't want to go all the way through the clay, of course. You're just going down, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so, just to outline. Because, you know, when you outline, when you're coloring, it really defines your piece of work. Same thing goes with this. It just really makes that leaf pop up off of the clay. So we're going to do that for all of this. Kind of get your crumbles away as you're going. Helps you kind of see your leaf a little bit better. You can hear the chimes out there, so it's still a windy day. Okay, so looks pretty good, right? A little bit different than what we've seen before, so it's pretty defined now. So we're getting close to the end. So now what's a good thing to do is just to kind of, you can take your thumb and just kind of go over those rough lines a little bit. You don't even need to use water because your clay should still be kind of pliable. And you can just go back in and redefine the lines and just get rid of any of the excess things that are just kind of lurking around still, and kind of go back into your lines and get that, all the sediments out of there just a little bit more, because then what we're going to do is we're going to be using our brush here a little bit, so we really don't want any extra goodies laying around. So just kind of walk around and get out those little things from all your little carvings here and there, and use your thumb to kind of go back through there a little bit, and yeah, just kind of get out the garbage, clean it up a little bit, because what we're going to do with our brush, we don't want to have a lot of garbage laying around, because then it's just going to get into our leaf and it's just going to make more of a mess. So just work on that for a little bit, and then get a couple of different size brushes ready to go. If you want to too, this is a good place that you could smooth out the lines in your carving if you don't want it there as well. Can you see the difference between these ones that are cleaned up and then these ones that aren't yet? So it's looking pretty good, right? It's looking really good. I love it. Starting to get crumbly. Means it's drying out. These lines that we're making around the leaves also are going to be great, because that's where the glaze will stay to define our leaves. So we want to keep those in there as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to work on now our brush technique. So get your brushes out and let's begin with that. Okay, you could have used a bigger brush too to get rid of all of your leftover crumbs and stuff in here. Sometimes I can't come up with words. You know, it happens as you get a little older. You get a little rusty with words and things like that. But, you know, just tip it up. Get rid of some of that stuff with just a dry brush. Okay, so we are now ready to do some work on our leaves to make them move. We want to move them off of the plate. Now, you don't have to, but I like to. You know, I like to have movement, and I like to make them look a little bit more real. So I have a couple of different sizes of brushes because I want to use them in different ways. So grab yourself a paper towel, and so you can wipe stuff off. So what I like to do is I like to kind of make indentations as I go. So let's see if I can get this in here with a light for you. All right, so just think of a leaf that's laying on a puddle of water or something like that, and how it just kind of moves, right? So you just get your brush a little damp and just kind of give it some movement, you know? So it's kind of moving there. Now this part's standing up a little bit from this part and this part, so you got some movement. You can use a different, you know, side of your brush, just whatever. Just go in there and just grab some movement. You don't want to make it too soggy, you know, so just dab off your brush, but just, you know, give it some movement, and you will see that it's just starting to just kind of form and dance a little bit. See that? And just think about how a leaf would lay, and just kind of go in there and make it stand up in different areas. Press down a little harder in some areas to get it to really swirl it around like that, so you can kind of see that's a little bit more defined, a little bit. And you know, not every part of the leaf is going to have movement, but you just want to be able to, you know, give it some movement somewhere. So just go do that through all of your leaves, and you know, so that, you know, just kind of really makes it pop up here, an indentation there, you know, so you can do that around all of your veins. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. Just give it some really good movement. See that? Hope you can see that. The leaf here. Well, there you go. Probably see that a little bit better. Okay, so just kind of go in and work on your leaves. And now the one on the bottom is going to be fun, because that's where everything just kind of lays, all your vegetables or fruits or things like that, and just twirl it around. Just let your brush just dance. No right or wrong movements here. And what's going to happen when this comes out of the kiln, especially if you're pressing down a little bit harder to get it to really move, when it comes out of the kiln, it's going to be just stunning. It'll be just gorgeous. So have fun with it, and check back in with you in a little bit. How are you coming along? So as you can see, most all of mine have a little flow to them, and I just have a couple more left. So like this one right here, it looks like it's falling down into, so you know, I've kind of made it indented here and here and here. So there's just lots of places where I've indented that I think it looks like it's kind of falling and moving. Now this one is going up, so I think that it should be indented down here. Just kind of make it flow. You can see how it just adds movement and life to this whole piece. It's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. And you know, you just use your imagination, you know, and just be creative as much as possible. Once you do this, like for me, I was like, I just love this whole process. And it takes a while, you know, but when you have a day like today, when you don't have much going on, or it's raining out and you just want to just be home, don't want to drive anywhere. I drove all week long, and I just am loving just not having to be in my car today, even though it is a Sunday. But you know, I pretty much drive for a living, so besides this is just relaxing. Just put on your music, just enjoy being creative. Now, let's see, I'll clean off my brush a little bit here. Let's see what else we want to do to this leaf. Maybe we want to do a little bit. I actually haven't even changed my brushes. I am just kind of using this particular one. But for me, I love angle brushes, you know, so even when I paint the walls, I gotta have an angle brush. It's just one of my favorite things. So that adds a little bit of movement there. Now remember, you don't want to push down too hard in some of your leaves just because you don't want to crack anything. And especially along the edges, you know, just kind of support it if you're pressing down around the edges to create some movement. That will definitely crack it. You want to do that because right now this is pretty much leather hard. So you just want to support it as much as possible. And when you're done with this process, you are pretty much done. You just flip it over when you can and sign your name to the back of it as well. And the other great thing to do once you've done this process too is just go ahead and go back through your lines here around your leaves just to define it one more time, and just wait for it to dry, because then the sediments are going to be dried as well, and you can just pretty much blow off any of the extra stuff. But the other thing that you want to do is you do want to take your finger, because there is some sharp edges here. Just take your finger and just lightly smooth all of those out around here, because again, you don't want sharp edges. But when you do that, you just got to go back and define it just a little bit more. So it's a small little process, but you know, you want to make sure that it's just like that, because when it comes out of the kiln, you do not want to have to spend a lot of time sanding something that's from the kiln. So if you do it now and just take the time, you can even actually use a brush, not this particular one, but you know, you can just use a brush and go in there and define those lines a little bit more too. So like here's a dry brush if you need to, and those areas where you can't get your finger in there to bring down those sharp edges, just use a dry brush and then just kind of go in there again really lightly and take it away like that. And then you will be all done. So I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson on how to make a beautiful leaf bowl of your choice, and hope you sign back in and subscribe to the Mizpah Pottery channel and like it and comment on it. So until next time, I wish you all Mizpah.